Welcome to today's convening of the... Oh, fix you.
Hang on, I'm sitting on my...
Right.
Sorry. Please, I do apologise. See, I sat on my thing.
Oh, yeah.
Sat on it.
You've got a little, like, bit sticking out of it. Yep. Yeah.
Ben, you had me right. I'm sorry.
Keep all of this in.
I sat on it. That's why you don't sit on it.
Come
You
here,
need the space. I got the space. Go.
Okay. Welcome to today's convening of the Creative Consultants. I'm Matt, Chief Content Consultant.
And I'm Trudi, Chief Communication Consultant.
And as is custom, especially to kick off season
two.
We like to start things off with a quote.
Yes, please.
Please.
I can't wait.
Let me deign to impress you with some words.
I always need a deep breath. I'm ready.
I think, actually, before I give you the quote, the topic of today's episode
go on.
is how can creativity affect change?
Yes.
Right, as made very clear by our outfits here. So this quote taps into that very, very closely.
Change my life, Matt. Go for it.
If you want creative workers, give them enough time to play. By John Cleese.
Wow, yes.
Beautiful,
One
right?
of my favourites.
He's a good one.
Well
Sometimes.
done.
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Sometimes. Yeah, it's look into it in your own time.
Okay.
How can creativity affect change? It's
Yes.
a big topic, a big topic. And you deal in play and creativity all the time. So what better place to start than go, how does creativity affect change?
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked. As John said, if you want to make a difference to your workers, get them to play. I work in this space all the time between creativity and change. This is somewhere that I'm most comfortable with. I'm going to start by quoting my friend, Dan Huberman.
Are we double quoting?
We're double quoting.
All right.
It is the double quote.
Yeah.
And he's got Dan Huberman, everybody, you know Dan with the podcast, Dan.
DH, yeah.
He talks about, here's a great one on play, and he talks about how play is actually, in essence, testing things in a safe, low-stakes environment. And really, when you combine that with play and creativity, it allows people to test out things without the threat of stakes.
I think that's it, right? Like play, some people keep it at arm's length because they're like, it's too scary. But there's nothing less stake imbued than play, right? Like it's just, it's the space to test things and play, as is in the title, and just see what sticks.
Yeah. And actually, the process that you have when you are doing something that is high risk, like that fight or flight, and the process that you do when you're testing out new possibilities through play is the same process, but only one of them imbues adrenaline. And that's why the high stakes environment is bad for your body and bad for, we all know what, that fight or flight, being in that fight or flight can do to us. But this side is exactly the same neurological process. It's just good for doesn't have the adrenaline, good for your body.
Yeah. I feel like we're slightly tangenting here, but like the stakes and the adrenaline, right, can often be associated with like the fear of failure.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people, particularly as adults, is like play and then putting yourself out there, doing something you're not comfortable with and that vulnerability. What's your kind of feeling on, I guess, working through that and going, well, I need to lean into that discomfort and accept the fear of failure as just a fear, and failure is actually part of this process?
Yes. Is there a question in there?
I thought that was a question. What's your thoughts on
What's my thoughts on fear of failure?
Yeah.
This is why play is brilliant, because actually when you're abiding by the rules of the game, and we've talked about this before, you have the freedom to fail. I think this is a real tension in our culture, our organisational culture, where we say, it's okay to fail. We love failure. We celebrate failure. It's really great to fail. Just don't mess up. We will judge you. Everything's, monitored and blah, blah, and performance reviewed.
Yeah.
But feel free to fail, which to me makes no sense. Whereas if you start a playful environment, or you use play, or you use creativity, it really is giving that permission to fail gloriously. It is giving you that permission to try things. And because that's really, like, we're fed all this stuff about how from failure comes great things, it was from the businesses that failed that made the ones that are a success. But how do we I always say it's like creating an environment, creating fertilizing the ground so that you can play around in failure and let things grow from that.
Yeah. And it's such a culture thing too. Like if everybody says, hey, it's okay to fail, and then culturally everybody reacts poorly to failure or like you said, judges it and puts it down, then that's obviously going to reduce the likelihood of play and experimentation. Whereas I think like every time we've had like a brainstorming conversation meeting or like thrown ideas around, and I've often said, no idea is a bad idea. If I then shoot down an idea as being a bad idea later, like that's just, it doesn't work with that environment you're trying to create. So I think as long as the culture is there supporting that idea of failure being a viable option and part of the process, I think it's much more successful that way as well.
So can I ask you a question about that?
No. Okay, that's, yeah. No.
It was season 2, done. Because you've got a team, right? You've got a whole team of creatives that get together to come up with creative ideas. So when you've got that, and you must have clients as well involved in that, you must have like a round table of creativity. It's almost like a medieval round table. Hey. But when that happens, how do you stop? Like someone comes up with a great idea. Like let's say I say, hey, Matt, let's open season 2 with a medieval costume. And you think, not sure about it. What do you do around that? How do you monitor that? How do you work with that?
Really good question. And I don't think I have like a perfect do this every time, but I think it comes down to making sure everybody's aligned with what the outcome is you're all looking to achieve, right? So whether it is coming up with fun costumes for a podcast or producing a video for a specific, outcome, if the idea brought forth doesn't necessarily do that as well as it could, it's not shooting down the idea, but going, well, let's come back to the North Star, which is the outcome we're all chasing. And so as long as everybody's aligned with that and we all go, this is a work space in which we're throwing ideas around and exploring stuff, because we move past something does not mean that it's useless or no longer valid. It actually gets us closer to the outcome we're all looking to achieve and the opportunity we're doing. So managing that language is important. It can't be like, no, Trudi, I don't think we're going to wear fun medieval costumes. It's like, what an interesting idea. Yeah, because it highlights these areas. But what if we look at exploring what else we can do inside that, element that you've just introduced, and away you go. So it's about, like I said, culturally encouraging people to buy into that experience and the way of going about it without turning those not so helpful or useful suggestions into negatives, but more like a stepping stone to get closer to the positives.
So it's really the improvisational yes and.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So to bring it back to our topic here, which is affecting change, right?
Sorry, that was a curiosity question.
Look, it's great. And I think one of the reasons this topic got brought up as one to talk about is that you deal in the experiential learning cycle, which when you said it before, I was like, that sounds really fancy, but it's actually something we all do and use. We just might not know how we're tapping into it. So do you mind sharing what the experiential learning cycle is and I guess how we can implement it going forward?
Do I mind sharing?
Do you?
Strap in. No.
Hit me with the straight facts.
I really needed it to come in. There it is. Well, this is my get ready. I'm going to step on my soapbox here because I love the experiential learning cycle. It's the basis of why play works. And a lot of people, I find that at the moment we're all saying, it's experiential, it's experiential. We do something and that's great. But there's actually a really particular cycle for it. There's four sections to the experiential learning cycle. Usually you'll start with experience. So you'll actually experience something, right? Then you're going to reflect on it. And I think that's really where the key learning comes into it. Yep. From there, you're going to think through what that means, and then you're going to take action on that. And then round you go again, round you go again, round you go again.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a process to the experiential learning cycle, and it's a process that actually emulates the way that our brains learn. And so when you use that, it gives people a really deep understanding and a really deep learning and a really high retention. I think it's something like over 80% retention when you use the cycle effectively.
Is that why, like something like journaling or like having a debrief afterwards to kind of put it in more of a corporate workplace vernacular, like that's really important to embed the systems, process learning and stuff as well to then be able to come back and do it better next time?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
100%. I think a lot of people will skip over that, reflect, well, we did it, that was great.
Yeah.
But actually the learning comes when you start to reflect on, well, what did we do? What did we mean? What did we learn? And that's where using play has its deep roots of learning in that.
That's cool.
I mean, I imagine it would be the same thing with video, right?
Yeah.
Storytelling.
Yeah. Well, we use a debrief method here, right, on every project that we deem it necessary. There's somewhere it's like we're iterating on previous things and it's a known quantity. But for a new client or a new project, it's always we just do a very simple debrief, which is what worked, what didn't, and why. And I think that, on the surface, it's kind of like we all know what worked and didn't because, we had these challenges here and this was the feedback we got from the client or whatever. But being able to do that really diligently and intentionally after a project's wrapped, as a team, we get to all, again, get on the same page and go like, well, what did we experience in this and how can we address it going forward? So I think that, kind of the cycle of it, it's the experience. We do the project. We then reflect on it and go, well, how did this go and where would we want to change it? What's the third one?
Thinking.
Okay.
You think through it, then you there's that cognitive.
It feels like those two are pretty inherently linked, right? The reflection and the thinking part of it.
Yeah.
And then you come back and do it again. It's just like, well, of course, like all of that learning should be brought forward to the next project to then make it a better thing. I love it. That's so
You're
cool.
doing it. Yes, you are.
We're already doing it. So
yes.
You mentioned then, like, again, we're coming back to creativity, right? And, and how that affects change. Like, how do you implement something like this and say it's an organization or a workplace or even just on a individual level? You're like, okay, cool, I understand this as a framework. How do you implement that so you can actually see the benefits of this taking place if you're not already doing it?
Well, let me tell you about one of my most fun, and only because it was one of those projects that I was like, actually, how do I? So I like to sort of stretch myself in my work. And so I did a project for a government department of New South Wales government, and they were having real trouble in their teams because they were siloed. They weren't talking to each other. And so I went away and I did my thinking and I tapped my fingers together and I did all the things that I needed to do. And I came up with this activity where we were going to design a resort together. I'd actually just come back from Fiji. So I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So we designed a resort together, but there were all of these little things. So every little group had a secret and every little group had a challenge of things that they had to include. Everyone designed a little part of the resort. And what they didn't understand was that the things that they needed, crucial things that they needed for their design, were held by other groups. And secrets that they had were actually valid for other groups.
Uh-huh.
And so I watched this room erupt. Everybody loves craft. Out we go. Everybody's designing their resorts. It's all happening. And then all of a sudden you can see at one moment there was a woman who looked across, and I counted the time that it took. At about 3 or 4 minutes, she looked across and she realised that the other team had a craft item that they actually needed. And so she twigged. It was one woman. And then so she went across and she started to say, oh, can I borrow that? Can I borrow that? Yeah. And then that group twigged that, oh, perhaps there's – and so all of a sudden before you knew it, the leaders of each group were getting together and then they were just starting to work together and huddled together. And so we watched this – I watched this progression build about this idea of sharing information and sharing knowledge that you have and all that sort of stuff. And then afterwards we did this beautiful reflection and this beautiful debrief. And that's – because they loved the experience so much and they did it through play, they were doing it on top, right? They were the duck on top of the water and underneath was all the learning happening underneath. That it became a company sort of vernacular. Everyone would say, well, don't resort it or don't whatever.
So good.
And then they kept getting me back to do it again and again because it was just this lovely way of giving them the experience of what it can be like. And then all of the learning happened in that reflection.
Yeah.
They had the fun, then we reflected on, well, what does that mean actually in our lives? And then off they went. A little think about it, took it into action in their office.
That's so cool.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
One of my highlights.
And I love that you pointed out that that's now that, the don't resort it. Like I think you've embedded, I was talking to somebody the other day about like Trojan horsing learning through like content or whatever, right? It's the same thing. You've just Trojan horsed this amazing experiential learning cycle through this one thing that now everybody goes, hey, don't resort it. And yeah, I mean, what a cool thing to have witnessed in real time change and then hopefully, continue on helping them for years to come.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So good.
Now, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a question, it's a statement.
Okay.
This topic came about because I went with my son to see Ocean, the film Ocean by David Attenborough. And we came out afterwards and we were so highly moved by it that we've now taken action to save our oceans, both me and my 7-year-old. We cried all the way through it. And we were talking later and saying that there is nothing more powerful in creating change than a strong visual story.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean,
busting.
Well, look, to kind of reduce it to a really simple idea to start with is that storytelling is how people have related to each other and shared stories, knowledge, wisdom for eons, right? Since the beginning of time. And so I think if you have a message or something you want to change behavior or change opinion, connecting on a a emotional level is key to making that really resonate. You can say like, we should, save our oceans because it's bad and we're killing wildlife and whatever. Or you can be like, how do you connect somebody to the stories of what's involved, make the stakes feel really real and tangible, and then ultimately make them choose to want to act rather than say, you should act. So I think like in that case, like so beautiful that you and your son have taken this, new mission through life, right? But if we kind of bring it back to what we're talking about here, which is, the workplace and sort of teams and things like that, maybe we're not looking to change the world with the things we're looking to impart, but we are looking to change people's attitudes or people's, intentions behind the work that they're looking to do. And so if you can make it relatable, make it human, and make it engaging from a story level, you then get to sort of access a part of people's motivation that is left untouched if it's just the kind of raw facts and statistics. Raw facts.
Aye.
So it's kind of the beauty of storytelling is just that, right? Like you get to be engaged in something that's really, really powerful and moving and get all of the benefits of the change in behavior, outlook, whatever it is, which is, it's romantic in a lot of ways. Like I think where else do you get to be creative and actually affect what people can do after you've shared your story with them? There's not many other places.
Really deeply, right? So, for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, they've got footage for the first time of these trawlers that are like they sweep the bottom of the ocean and they just collect everything. Now there is nothing in the world that I could read, hear, try and comprehend that would be as powerful as the vision of watching these trawlers rape and pillage the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Now that's an image that's going to stay in my head forever. Now the fact that you can do that, the fact that you can create a visual that will evoke deep change in someone is really powerful stuff.
Yeah. Even like, I mean, to kind of change tack a little bit, it's like MrBeast, we all have at least heard of or know him. He's a massive YouTuber, right?
I do know him,
all
yes.
the kids know
I
him.
have a 7-year-old.
He has another channel called Beast Philanthropy where all of the proceeds of that channel go back to funding the projects they're doing. And so they do a lot of like outreach in African countries and building wells and fresh water and things like that. And it's about, he's got such a rabid audience that engage with his stuff that they've then turned storytelling into the greatest tool to help support those places. And so a lot of his audience are younger and maybe not even aware of these things going on through storytelling and the power of creative, sharing of these stories and the change that they can make. There's awareness, but then there's also like the opportunity for people to pick that up and continue, doing that sort of work themselves. And so I think like at a just pure level of going, well, we've got a platform in which we can share things. They're using part of that to change the world and be good. We might not necessarily be able to work at that same scale, but if the impact you can have on an individual or a smaller team or a company or something can help change the trajectory of that business or those people's lives for the better, whether their output's stronger, their revenue's higher, which means that they all get rewarded, or the work they're doing is actually important in the world from a societal, whatever it is, then great. Like what a cool thing to be able to do and turn into action through creative storytelling.
So my question to you would be, do you think that organizations are aware of how powerful that visual concept can be to change their people or their organization? And if not, how do we make them?
Well, I think it's a great two-part. I think the first part is they're probably not really that aware. And if they are, there's still a lot of hesitance around it because it's probably feels quite new in a lot of ways. Like if we then sort of think about like it is content as an idea of like being able to talk to and humanize people inside brands and businesses is a reasonably new thing. And like, most people have probably seen this on LinkedIn. Hi, LinkedIn. But it's like the trajectory of what people are posting on there used to be just like resumes and job updates. And it's now personal brands and building individuality and humanizing companies through the people and the platforms that they have as individuals. And so the way people connect with people is through stories. And so people are sharing that sort of stuff. And so I think we're seeing a stronger pull towards that stuff. But I also still think it's so new that organizations and particularly larger sort of legacy companies are more afraid of tapping into it because it is a bit, well, what's the ROI on this, right? We talked about it in a previous episode. It's kind of hard to quantify, but if people have a good feeling about it, it's sort of eventually when the time comes for, an audience member to then engage with that company or person, you'll have a better sentiment and top of mind and what have you because of that story that you've told. So yeah, I don't think organizations are really like fully embracing it, but they are beginning to show signs of that. And I think to your second part of the question of, well, how can they? I think just lean into the individuality of your business, your staff members, your team, because that's what makes you tick. Like for us, we use a lot of LinkedIn marketing and a lot of, posts and stuff on there. We ostensibly do the same as every other video production company. We make videos for companies, but what makes us stand out is our own individual outlooks, our approach to creativity, the team, our backgrounds,
the
family
desperate
makeup.
Desire to return to the 80s.
Yeah, I know, just the hanging on to, puffer jackets and denim everywhere. But, it's like that's what makes us us.
Yep.
And if we don't share that, we just blend into the beige, everybody else noise of it. Whereas if we kind of lean into our own story and share that and be creative, we can hopefully impact organizations because that's how we're positioning ourselves.
I think there's a little tidbit in that for everyone to think about a powerful image and how that image can be the difference of somebody contacting you on LinkedIn and somebody not. I'll take my advice myself.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is just be unique and memorable. Like, I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't know. So before we wrap this up,
okay.
You also mentioned before about fortune cookies, and I'm just going to leave it to you to set up.
Well, I was thinking about the power of play and change, right? What's something little that I can give our devoted listeners who have come back for season 2? What would they like? What can I show them that can show how impressive change can be, even little bits of change? So I'd like to share one of the things that I've been doing for years, and that is when you get a fortune cookie, they're not around that much anymore, but they're still around. When you get a fortune cookie, just want you to add the words "in bed" to the end of your fortune. Now it's only 2 little words. My goodness, they make a difference.
So I have a list here from, let me pay respects to Josh Madison, wasting time online since 1993.
Thank you,
for
Josh.
Those following along at home. I have a list of fortune cookie fortunes here. And I think let's go live here. Can I get a letter of the alphabet?
Turning to our loyal subjects.
Yeah.
G.
All right, I'm going to go to G. There's not many Gs. Okay.
Are you going to read it and I will add the in bed?
Well, I'll read the first one, then we'll get a letter from you and you can read the next one.
Can't wait.
All right. G. There's so many good ones. Okay. Good to begin well, better to end well.
In bed.
That's good. That's good. All right, Ben, give us a letter. Hey, Trudi.
Okay.
Let's go T.
T.
Okay, the letter T. Ooh, your thing's backwards.
Oh, God, we could do a whole episode on up is down, down is up.
Okay. Oh, yes. You ready? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
In bed. So you can do this yourself in your own time.
Yep.
It's very fun. We've definitely gone through at least a dozen or so before this recording.
We have.
And I'd have to say it's our crowning achievement.
Oh, look at you go.
You know what was really good about that is I felt it falling off. And so I came up with a joke to segue out of it. So I didn't just go,
I'm so impressed because I've been watching it.
I could feel it too. So I'm like trying to do these ones. Anyway.
See? Change. It's everywhere.
Good. That's it.
Failure. It's everywhere.
How do we end this?
I don't know. Like that?
I think so.
Great.